So speaking of investments, I think this actually has a lot to do with what you're saying. So in Iowa, we have a pretty recent history of being pretty tough on our immigrant brothers and sisters. You probably know about this, from the nation's largest raid in Postville, Iowa back in 2008. Unfortunately, to most recently when the legislative session decided to pass Senate File 481, which became law. And basically what that does is it allows local entities, specifically police, to work more closely with ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And it's been reported by CNN recently that when you were district attorney of San Francisco, you supported your city's policy of turning over some of the undocumented teenagers to ICE even before they had been convicted of a crime. So I was just wondering, I know that I've been watching you since you started running, and it seems like your position on immigration is quite good. So could you kind of give us some insight on how from that time, when it was the right, for whatever reason, you were supporting this policy that was essentially handing over undocumented people to ICE before they had been convicted, to now, and kind of what's changed on that and how you came to those changes. And then I was wondering if you could also just talk a little bit about how, compared to like right now, the hot topic is the wall, but what do we actually need to do about immigration? I know you have some good things to share on that, so.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the first instance, the policy that you're referring to in San Francisco, that ended up being an unintended consequence of the policy, and I did not support that consequence of that policy. And that policy, I believe, has since changed because it was not the intended purpose of that policy. I'll say this, and I feel very strongly about it, and I always have, which is this. My background is as a prosecutor, and I want to know that be a person a victim of a rape or child molestation or a vicious violent crime, I want to know that that victim will be able to run in the middle of the street and wave down a police officer and receive protection and security without having to worry about if they do that, they'll be deported. And that's part of the problem with those policies. That's part of the problem with those policies, which is why I don't support policies that would have local police officers perform the function of immigration enforcement. We have purposely designed our government in a way that local government has certain responsibilities, state government has certain responsibilities, federal government has certain responsibilities. And if you meet with any police department in America, most will tell you they are barely keeping up with the domestic violence cases that come through the door, the robbery cases that come through the door, much less having to do the federal government's job of enforcing immigration policy. It's a bad approach, and it does not achieve public safety. Because I'm going to tell you, again, having handled these cases personally, one of the strongest tools in the tool belt of the predator who is committing a crime against an undocumented immigrant is to tell that victim, if you report the crime against you, it is you who will be treated as the criminal. So we have to check ourselves and look in the mirror. If we say that we are about public safety and making sure that our laws are enforced, well, that's a flawed policy, and it has no place in a civil society. Local police should not be doing the job of federal law enforcement.